That would go good. I'm glad I didn't get that other shit.
Oh, okay.
I'm sitting here with Wendell Stimley down in San Diego, the offices of Black IPO. A little bit about Black IPO. What is it?
It's a management firm, and we do project management, construction management, and management of transactions. Started about 15 years ago now, and we just study, progress, and try to have urban inclusion in everything that we do, and keep it beneficial to not only ourselves but the local community.
How did you get to a point in your professional career that you had the resources and expertise to start your own company?
Well, I mean, going to Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, gave me engineering school, gave me a foundation, and then I went into corporate America with TRW, Norton Air Force Base, Boeing, companies like that, where I learned the corporate structure, and from that I had a skill set that was able to take into entrepreneurship.
Now, were you ever a general contractor?
Yeah, we've done general contracting, we've done subcontracting, and obviously the graduation point for that is to become a construction manager, because now you've looked at the process from not only a sub, a vendor, a supplier, and a general contractor, so you can understand the pitfalls of each and the strengths and weaknesses of each.
At what point did you decide that it would become necessary to look at capital formation as a part of building your business?
Well, when you become a owner's representative, which most construction managers are, you then have the responsibility of not only knowing how the funding came about for the owner, if they're paying interest on the notes and the time frame that the projects have to be completed in. Usually the interest payments can sometimes amount up to so much that the owner can't complete some of the capital improvement projects that he has identified. So you have to do everything in a timely, systematic, cost-effective approach, because all that time means money. And from a construction management perspective, you look at it that way, where from a contracting standpoint, they bid on a job, get a job, try to complete a job to get their payment or their retention. They're not really concerned with how much interest the owner is paying on the money that he either took as a bond or took as a loan or took as a note. But from our perspective, as a representative, we have to understand the capital formation of the projects and know how to get them out and get them completed in time.
So, we're in San Diego, California. You also have offices where else in the country?
Primarily Atlanta, Georgia.
And you are part of an organization that I've been associated with for practically 30 years now, the Black Contractors Association / National Black Contractors Association. What are some of the other organizations that you have affiliation with?
The National Association of Minority Contractors, the National Black Chamber of Commerce, the Construction Managers Association, the Engineering Association. So you'll find yourself being a part of a lot of associations, just because every community has a different need, and you have to kind of understand where you fit in that community and what the community needs and how you can be of best service. Because a lot of times we may want to believe it's about us, but a lot of times it's about the people that came before us that have laid the groundwork for how we are able to get anything done.
How have you been able to survive and at times thrive in the rough and tumble world of construction?
Just keeping in mind that we are a service provider. We're here to service a client, and that client could be an owner, and to not get so egotistical that you think it's about you. It's about the local community. It's about that owner. It's about the vendors and suppliers and contractors in that community, and trying to make the process work for everybody. So by looking at it from that perspective, you're going to keep a lot of the conflict and ill feelings down, because you're not taking it, it's a us against you approach. It's us together to accomplish an objective, to put a needed piece of infrastructure back into an underserved community.
What are some of the projects that you are most proud of in terms of your participation and completion in?
Well, locally, I would say this facility, the BCA, Black Contract Association building.
What role did you play in the development?
The concrete for this
The
facility.
entire building.
Yeah.
And that was done in what year?
Oh, I can't think about that far.
It was in the 90s, right?
Yeah, 99, 98.
Okay.
Lincoln High School.
Right
which
down
is-
the street from where we are right now in
Right.
Southeast San Diego.
Right. It's,
And what was your contribution to that project?
we're the part of the construction management team.
And how large was that project, financially speaking?
$100 million.
Okay. Now, how were you able to become an integral part of the construction of the new Lincoln High School?
Well, the managing partner, the Barnhart Company, I developed a relationship with them over time, working on some other projects here.
Now, how large was Barnhart at that particular time, relatively speaking?
I would say they're about $500 million revenue type business.
So how did you get in the game with the big boys?
Well, I mean, you understand what projects that you're going to have can be competitive in. And if it's a construction management job, then you lay out a strategy, and then you decide who you want to partner with versus sitting back waiting, because the phone will never call for someone to call you and say, I want you to come partner with me. So you figure out what project you want. You kind of have to do your homework or how you want to participate in that, and then you have to get your insurance, your capital, and your house in order, and then decide with who you want to partner with to go after the job. And at that point, it's like anything else. You just rolling the dice. Somebody's gonna win, somebody's gonna lose.
So you make it sound almost matter of fact, but it's actually much more complicated than that. At least from my vantage point, what you accomplished was in many ways historic. Can you speak to how different that association with Barnhart was? And
Well, I'll go deeper than that. I'll take a job like the San Diego Library Project or the Washington, D.C. Convention Center Project. These are projects that we market for like 3 years before they even come to what people call a bid. So, we're so early on into understanding it's going to be a guaranteed maximum price. It's going to be a design build. It's going to be a design bid build. What delivery method is going to be used to bring this project forward? So you're starting to develop your proposal and your pros and cons of that job based on the delivery method long before it ever becomes an actual bid to the general population. So some of that you got to be checking for, okay, well, who are they hiring as a designer? They hire a certain company as a designer. All they do is major convention centers, stadiums. So this is going to be a mega job. These companies don't even do projects, say, under $200 million. So you're already where everybody else is not grasping it, you know this is going to be a major deal. So then you have to start strategizing how you want to play in that deal and where you think your strong suit is and what scopes of work you want. So when you do talk to the billion-dollar major player companies, they understand that you have a plan for how you plan to participate in the process.
How many African American would you speculate are playing in the construction arena at your level?
Oh, there's some major. You have the Smoot Company,
And where are they
St.
out of?
Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, okay.
You have the Russell family out of Atlanta. You have Thor out of Maryland. So you got about 10 firms that I can think of off the top of my head that are, substantial.
In proportion to the number of major firms, what percentage would that reflect?
That's the problem. Of that 10 firms, is still 1% of the. It's still 1% of the population of major construction firms here in the United States.
Name 3 people that would be considered instrumental in your professional development.
Dean Burrell, the
At
Dean
Southern
of
University?
Engineering at Southern University.
What was his first name?
Quinton's.
Quintus
Yeah,
Burrell.
Burrell.
Okay.
My dad, who was had a degree in biology and was taught school for like 30 years, so he gave me a lot of.
What was his name?
Corey Stemley.
Corey? Corey?
Corry.
Corry. And he was a
Biology teacher
at where?
in Louisiana, Baton Rouge.
At the
Capital
high school level?
Yeah.
For 30 years?
hmm So he always told me, he's like, son, and you can have 20 years of experience, truly, or you can have 1 year of experience 20 times. So you got to take numbers with a grain of salt. So we try to learn something every year versus just feeling good about ourselves repeating the same old thing. So, and in any kind of business, people say you gotta have, some people are gonna refer to a higher power than themselves. Some people are gonna, call it whatever name they want to call it. But there's a bigger, something bigger working than just yourself. They got mad with Barack Obama when he says, well, no, you didn't do this by yourself. I mean, hard work and all that is fine, but you have to keep in mind that if there was not a civil rights bill, if there was not an internet, if there was not a lot of these tools that we have just inherited, then none of us would be effective in being a small business, because we are all riding on the back of something that was bigger than us, that we didn't, just our effort didn't create it.
Okay, if you could think of a single person that in the construction industry that has had the most influence on your development, who would that be?
Probably Doug Barnhart.
Why?
Because I was able to see the process from inside the process and understand the process of business development and marketing. And a lot of construction firms believe that it's just about the number, but to get the best number, the subs got to want to give you the best number, or you got to have enough volume to get the best number. Something is making those numbers you get different than the numbers the other guys get. Relationships or speed of payment, something is enticing them to want to do business with you. And at the end of the day, people got to want to do business with you. So that's why when you see folks get all huff and puff and all excited and get all egotistical about themselves, they're missing the point that people have to want to do business with you in a business where you are so dependent upon other people's numbers.
Now, just for the uninitiated, how large was Doug Barnhart in the construction industry during the period of time that you guys were actively doing business? I know that you still do some things with some offshoots of his company. How large was Doug?
Probably the biggest privately owned contractor probably here in San Diego. And I had heard one time as the 8th largest educational builder in the country. So on an order of magnitude, that's pretty large.
And he was the president of what association during his tenure?
AGC.
The Associated General Contractors,
Right.
which is probably the largest contractors
Group of contractors in
in
the country.
Okay. You also involved in something that I would leave it to you to describe as also historical in its proportion. It has something to do with the name of your company, Black IPO. Speak on that if you would, please.
Well, we can't get too deep into it because of some,
Proprietary
yeah.
issues.
But we have always kept the understanding that to play in the game, you've had to have access to capital. And you can't ignore it and try to act like that problem is going to go away. It's a real problem. You have to address it, and you have to know how to position your firm in whatever you're going to do. If you're going to have a barbecue place, you got to have meat. You got to have meat every day. And, you got to be able to fill that order or you won't have anything to cook. So it's the same kind of process that every day you have a challenge. And you have to be able to meet that challenge and have the resources available to meet that challenge.
Okay, well, let's back away from that since we're a little premature for that element of what you do, at least in terms of speaking publicly about it. What are some of the projects you're working on right now as a construction manager?
Well, we're at the library project downtown
Here in San Diego.
We're at the Martin Luther King Hospital in Los Angeles. We have some of the many medical office building program with Kaiser out in Atlanta. So just did a study with Shaw Group out of Baton Rouge to back when they were doing the rebuild Southern University of New Orleans during the Katrina, which I'm still trying to get my hands around, so many years later, how that process of rebuild the Gulf Coast region has went. So, we got our hands in a few things.
As we conclude this interview, I'd like for you to do the following. Look straight ahead into that camera and say with some conviction your name and Real Men Don't Play.
Okay, my name is Wendell Stimley, and Real Men Don't Play.
Thank you.